benefits us. Lord, I thank you for all that you give us. I pray that you'd be with those who are either sick or traveling today, Lord, that you would keep them safe. Pray that you would help us to put aside those things that consume our mind, Lord, and focus on you today. Pray that our study and worship would be in honor of you, Lord, and it would be rooted in truth. Amen. All right. So last weekend we were in Revelation 17. We'll be going back there again. And we looked at this idea of Babylon being a great whore. And what were some of the characteristics that make up a prostitute? Loose morals. Someone who joins themselves with many people. Unfaithfulness. Yeah. Also, I don't think we mentioned it, but it's a form of dishonor as well. In that culture, being a virgin was considered an honor, and women took pride in that. So yeah, it would be a form of dishonor. Someone who uses the interaction to manipulate people. What's that?
Profit.
For profit. Okay, so that's really a characteristic of Babylon, and I wanted to. I feel like I kind of skipped over. Instead of which we will look at, what makes up what makes up the characteristics of Babylon, but what is Babylon exactly? And so in Revelation 17, I'll just read a few verses here. Verse 17 through 18. It says, for God put in their hearts to do what will fulfill his purpose, that is, to be of one mind and give their kingdom to the beast until God's words have accomplished their intent. And the woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. And then skipping forward into chapter 18, verse 9, starting at verse 9, says, the kings of the earth who went whoring with her and shared her luxury will sob and wail over her when they see the smoke as she burns. Standing at a distance for fear of her torment, they will say, oh no, the great city, Babel, the mighty city. In a single hour your judgment has come. The world's businessmen weep and mourn over her because no one is buying their merchandise anymore. Stocks of gold and silver, gems and pearls, fine linen and purple, silk and scarlet, all rare woods, all ivory goods, all kinds of things made of scented wood, brass, iron, and marble, cinnamon, cardamom, incense, myrrh, frankincense, wine, oil, flour, grain, cattle, sheep, horses, chariots, and bodies, and people's souls. The fruits you lusted for with all your heart have gone. All the luxury and flashiness have been destroyed, never to return. The sellers of these things who got rich from her will stand at a distance for fear of her torment, weeping and mourning and saying, Oh no, the great city used to wear fine linen, purple and scarlet. She glittered with gold, precious stones, and pearls. Such great wealth in a single hour ruined. All the ship's masters, passengers, sailors, and everyone making his living from the sea stood at a distance and cried out when they saw the smoke as she burned, "What city was like the great city?" And they threw dust on their heads as they wept and mourned, saying, "Oh no, the great city, the abundance of her wealth, made all the ship owners rich. In a single hour she is ruined. Rejoice over her, heaven, rejoice, people of God, emissaries of prophets, for in judging her, God has vindicated you." So what is Babylon referred to over and over in these two chapters? Right. A great city.
Trade center.
Yeah, so Babylon is referred to as a city 8 times in these two chapters. So it's definitely a location, right? It has a physical location. It's established, like Holly said, a network of trade, has a well-established commerce with surrounding nations. So it's definitely got a physical element to it, right? A people, a city. Would we all agree? Okay. But is this city a revitalized Babylon? That the city Babylon that Nimrod established, that Nebuchadnezzar made great, is this the same Babylon? And that's what I want to look at. What's that?
Have they actually found the original place where?
Yes. Yes. If you remember, we looked at it's currently a tourist attraction, but it's south of Baghdad. Yeah. Right.
They know where the original site of Babylon was.
Yeah. And some archaeologists suggest that they've found some of the cornerstones of the actual Tower of Babel, which is debatable, but like the foundation elements. Yeah, yeah. And they'd have, like, if you look at images of the tourist site, a lot of the old city is, below ground level, and Saddam Hussein had led a huge effort to excavate a lot of it and rebuild it. The Tower of Babel. I think they said 30 stories, if I remember right. Which 10 feet roughly. So 30 feet. Which, back, that's thousands of years ago. That's a very tall structure.
Well, you said 30 stories, so it's like 300 feet, right?
30 stories?
Did you say if they made it 30 stories tall? 3 stories tall?
30 stories, yeah, sorry, 300, yeah.
I was like 30-foot buildings, like,
Yeah.
big.
I was saying 30 and thinking 300.
That was my mistake. All we did was drop 1-0.
Space rockets have exploded for mistakes less than that. What's that? Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
It's architecture. Slightly different.
So, is it ancient Babylon revitalized? Let's look at Jeremiah 51. Jeremiah 51. You can do quite a bit of reading.
Are we doing the whole chapter?
Let's see. I would, yeah, may as well. This is our only service, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's split it up. We'll go up to verse 58. So if we do, let's do 3 people. First 2 do 20 verses, and then the last one finish it off. How about Paul? Jeff? Anybody else? Okay, so Paul, if you do the first, Jeff, you do the second 20, and then Holly, if you finish it off.
Okay, Jeremiah chapter 51, verses 1 through 20. Thus says the Lord, see, I rouse against Babylon and against those who live in Chaldea a destroying wind. Against Babylon I will send winnowers to winnow her and lay waste her land. They shall besiege her from all sides on the day of affliction. Let the bowman draw his bow and flaunt his coat of mail. Spare not her young men. Doom her entire army. The slain shall fall in the land of Chaldea, the transfixed in her streets. For Israel and Judah are not widowed of their God, the Lord of hosts, and the Chaldean land is full of guilt, to be punished by the Holy One of Israel. Flee out of Babylon, let each one save his life, perish not for her guilt. This is a time of vengeance for the Lord, he pays her her due. Babylon was a golden cup in the hand of the Lord, which made the whole earth drunk. The nations drank its wine, but this they have become mad. Babylon suddenly falls and is crushed. Howl over her. Bring balm for her wounds, in case she can be healed. We have tried to heal Babylon, but she cannot be healed. Leave her, let us go, each to his own land. Her judgment reaches heaven, it touches the clouds. The Lord has brought to light our just cause. Come, let us tell in Zion what the Lord our God has done. Sharpen the arrows, fill the quivers. The Lord has stirred up the spirit of Media's kings. Babylon he is resolved to destroy. Yes, it is the vengeance of the Lord, vengeance for his temple. Against the walls of Babylon raise a signal. Make strong the watch. Post sentries. Arrange ambushes. For the Lord has planned and he will carry out his threat against the inhabitants of Babylon. You who dwell by mighty waters, rich in treasure, your end has come, the term at which you shall be cut off. The Lord of hosts has sworn by himself, I will fill you with men as numerous as locusts, who shall raise over you the vintage shout. He has sworn who made the earth by his power, and established the world by his wisdom, and stretched out the heavens by his skill. When he thunders, the waters in the heavens roar, and he brings up clouds from the end of the earth. He makes the lightning flash in the rain, and releases storm winds from their chambers. Every man is stupid, ignorant. Every artisan is put to shame by his idol. He molded a fraud without the breath of life. Nothingness are they, a ridiculous work that will perish in their time of punishment. Not like these is the portion of Jacob. He is the creator of all things. Israel is his very own tribe. Lord of hosts is his name. You are my hammer, my weapon for war. With you I shatter nations. With you I destroy kingdoms.
With you I will smash the horse and its rider. With you I will smash the chariot and its rider. With you I will smash man and woman. With you I will smash the old man and the youth. With you I will smash the young man and the young woman. With you I will smash the shepherd and his flock. With you I will smash the farmer and his ox team. With you I will smash governors and officials. Before your very eyes I will repay Babylon and all the residents of Chaldea for all their evil they have done in Zion. This is the Lord's declaration. Look, I am against you, devastating mountain. This is the Lord's declaration. You will devastate the whole earth. I will stretch out my hand against you, roll you down from the cliffs, and turn you into a charred mountain. No one will be able to retrieve a cornerstone or a foundation stone from you, because you will become desolate forever. This is the Lord's declaration. Raise a signal flag in the land. Blow a ram's horn among the nations. Set apart the nations against her. Summon kingdoms against her. Ariad, Midian, and Ashkenaz. Appoint a marshal against her. Bring up horses like a swarm of locusts. Set apart the nations for battle against her. The kings of Media, her governors and her officials, all the lands they rule. The earth quakes and trembles, because the Lord's intentions against Babylon stand, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant. Babylon's warriors have stopped fighting. They sit in their strongholds. Their might is exhausted. They have become like women. Babylon's homes have been set ablaze. Her gate bars are shattered. Messenger races to meet messenger, and herald to meet herald, to announce the king of Babylon that his city has been captured from end to end. The fords have been seized, the marshes set on fire, and the fighting men are terrified. For this is what the Lord of armies, the God of Israel, says. Daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor at the time it is trampled. In just a little while her harvest time will come. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon has devoured me. He has crushed me. He has set me aside like an empty dish. He has swallowed me like a sea monster. He filled his belly with my delicacies. He has vomited me out. Let the violence done to me and my family be done to Babylon, says the inhabitant of Zion. Let my blood be on the inhabitants of Chaldea, says Jerusalem. Therefore, this is what the Lord says. I am about to champion your cause and take vengeance on your behalf. I will dry up her sea and make her fountain run dry. Babylon will become a heap of rubble, a jackal's den, a desolation and an object of scorn without inhabitant. They will roar together like young lions. They will growl like lion cubs. While they are flushed with heat, I will serve them a feast, and I will make them drunk so that they celebrate. Then they will fall asleep forever and never wake up. This is the Lord's declaration. I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams together with male goats.
Shishka has been captured, the pride of the whole earth sees. Babel has become an object of horror throughout the nations. The sea has flooded Babel, overwhelmed her with its raging waves. Her cities have become desolate, parched, airy land, a land where no one lives. Nobody even passes through. I will punish Bel in Babel and make him disgorge what he swallowed. These nations will no longer flow to him. Babel's wall will fall. Get out of her, my people. Each one saves yourself. save yourself from Adonai's furious anger. Don't be faint-hearted. Don't be afraid of the rumor spreading abroad in the land. 1 year one rumor comes, the next year another rumor comes of violence in the land, and rulers fighting rulers. Therefore, listening, the days are coming when I will pass judgment on Babel's idols. Her whole land will be put to shame as all her slain fall on the homestead.
Then heaven and earth and all that's in them will sing for joy over Babel, for the plunderers from the north are coming to her, says Adonai. Just as Babel caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babel will fall all the slain of the land. You who escaped the sword, go, don't stand still. Remember Adonai from afar, let Jerusalem come into your minds. The reproaches we have heard put us to shame. Disgrace covers our faces, because foreigners have entered the sanctuaries of Adonai's house. Therefore, says Adonai, the days are coming when I will pass judgment on her idols. The wounded will groan throughout her land. Even if Babel scales the heavens or reinforces her lofty stronghold, plunderers will come to her from me, says Adonai. An agonized cry is heard from Babel, great destruction in the land of the Chaldees. For Adonai is plundering Babel and silencing her noisy din. Their waves roar like the raging ocean. Their clamor sounds in response. Yes, the plunderer has fallen upon her, fallen on Babel. Her warriors are captured, their bows are broken. For Adonai is a God of retribution, he will surely repay. I will intoxicate her leaders and sages, her governors, deputies, and warriors. They will sleep forever and never wake up, says the King, whose name is Adonai, Lord of hosts. Thus says Adonai, Lord of hosts. The wide walls of Babel will be razed to the ground. Her lofty gates will be set on fire. The people are toiling for nothing. The nation's labor goes up in flames, and everyone is exhausted.
Okay. So a lot of reading for a few points. A couple that I want to mention that are kind of side notes, but it will be relevant later. Also, the Shishak, what you read in verse 41, is just another name for Babylon. So also, it's interesting. In verse 44, it says, "I will punish Bel and Babel." So Bel was another name given to Marduk. If you remember who Marduk was, that was the chief god of Babylon, who a lot of historians draw a line from him to Nimrod. So Nimrod, and we'll talk a little bit about Nimrod, but for right now, if you remember, Marduk was basically the deity that was established from Nimrod's legacy. And so here, Bel just means Lord. So they referred to Marduk as Lord, or like Adonai. So he was really Adonai to Babylon. And it says that the Lord will make him basically regurgitate what he swallowed. So the worship and teachings of Marduk had spread so far, and so in this judgment, the worship of essentially Marduk will be stopped. So that's what that's referring to, and it's also interesting because Marduk was also known as the god of thunder and lightning. And if you go back into verse 15, I don't think it's a coincidence that the Lord uses the imagery of thunderstorms and lightning and describes, this is what I produce. I'm the creator of this, not Marduk. So it's in opposition to Marduk. And then immediately following in verse 17, he starts talking about idolatry. So they would build images of Marduk and worship him. So just a side note, and it's going to be important as we hear in a little bit. So to get back on topic, so Babylon, I asked the question, is this the Babylon, actual city Babylon revitalized? How can it be revitalized when there's, prophecy in here, like verse 8 and 9. It says Babylon has fallen, and there's people that will try to heal her, which means they'll try to build her back up to her former glory. But they will be unable to.
Also, in 42 as well, it talks about the destruction, but it says the sea has risen over Babylon. She is covered by its crashing waves.
Yep.
Wouldn't that be like a different city?
No, I think the sea is just imagery of, like oftentimes water, sea is reference to other nations. So, a conquering by another nation. It says there, if you keep going, verse 43, it says that our cities will become desolate, parched, arid land, a land where no one lives and nobody even passes through. So, an instance there where she'll fall so far that she will have no significance at all.
And that was true.
Huh?
For a while it has been true.
Yeah, we'll get there. So, and then verse 37 says, Babel will become a heap of ruins, a place of jackals to live, an object of horror and hissing, with no one living there. Where else? It says, verse 13, it says, you will live near plenty of water, so rich in treasure. Your end has come, your time for being cut off. Adonai has sworn by himself, I will fill you with men as numerous as grasshoppers. They will raise you over you a shoot of triumph. And then also in verse did I not mark it? There was a verse 2 that said that she would never again be established. So, and also there's very similar imagery between this and Revelation 17. So like you've got, the mention of a gold cup and how Babylon is the wine that other nations are drinking, which is the same kind of similar imagery that Revelation 17 uses. And it also mentions that where'd it go?
It wasn't verse 37, was it? Where Babylon shall become a heap of ruins, a haunt of jackals, a place of horror and ridicule, where no one lives. Looks like it talks about the leadership in verse 39, when they are parched, I will set a drink before them to make them drunk, that they may be overcome with perpetual sleep, never to awaken, says the Lord.
Yeah. I think the one I was thinking of is back in verse 25 and 26. It says, I am against you, destructive mountain, destroying all the earth. What is a mountain referring to? Government. Okay. Yep, oftentimes government. Destroying all the earth, says that, and I will stretch out my hand against you to send you tumbling down from the crags and make you a burned out mountain. No one will make cornerstones or foundation stones from you again, but you will be desolate forever. That was the one I was thinking of. So really it's, and I know I have in the past, when you read verses like this, you think it's almost an immediate, judgment. Like when Babylon falls, this is going to be fulfilled. But it's a process, right? And as we looked at the history of Babylon briefly, as it was overtaken by other nations, Greece, Rome, its significance slowly declined, right? And till, present day, now it has no significance. I mean, it almost, comically, not, well, I don't know if it's comical, but, Saddam Hussein tried to revitalize it. He wanted to reestablish Babylon, and it obviously fell through. So, yeah, it was a process, right, that Babylon had to go through, and it slowly throughout time became less and less significant until now it's just really a tourist attraction. But you mentioned mountains and government, so really, when you think of another aspect of that is the government of Babylon, and how they ruled, and that's been completely abolished, right? At least organized, Babylon government. There is still, they still have a nation. Babylon is still a recognized nation, but
Have elements of, I'm not familiar with, haven't read so much history into Babylon, but have elements of their government system, have those been adopted by other nations?
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was made up of Syrians,
Just like,
which is,
the government of the United States has adopted some elements of some other government systems, like they looked at the way that the Romans had
right.
originally devised their.
Well, you could say that we've included some of the elements of Babylon too. I mean, the Code of Hammurabi was in our White House, not the White House. Where was it? One of our major government facilities. So there's, at least paying homage to, an aspect of their government.
In my verse 43 of chapter 51, it says, "For cities have become a desert."
Mm-hmm.
So,
Now, is that physically?
is that
Like-
is that referencing Babylon as a nation in this regard?
I believe it is, because John uses similar imagery when he's talking about the prostitute, when she's sitting by many waters. And we'll see when we get there, we'll see a contrast between the prostitute in Revelation 17 and the daughter of Babylon. I believe it is in Isaiah. But, when the prostitute sitting next to many waters it's not, obviously referring to actual, water. It's more referring to her commerce or trading with, and her involvement with many nations. So when I think when it's talking about a desert, it means that relationship with many nations has been dried up. So, we mentioned that there's people that won't even enter Babylon anymore because there's no reason to. She's of no significance. Okay. So if Revelation is using the city Babylon, but we've just looked at how Babylon has become or will become a city and government nation that no longer exists or is insignificant. So that begs the question: is it a contrasting idea, or is there another reason why Scripture uses Babylon? In Scripture, God is very purposeful in the terms that He uses. So there's a reason why Babylon's being used. And
I would speculate that it's probably due to the fact that it's really the first real center of civilization that's really talked about.
yeah, so let's go back and think about, as we kind of looked at the history of Babylon, what are some of the key points? So Babylon was the first coming together of man, right, after the flood. And it was really the first big defiance of God after the flood, right? It was in opposition to His command to spread out and populate the earth. And as, if you remember, Pastor read from the Legend of the Jews, take it for what it's worth, but I think there's probably an element of truth in there that Nimrod was seeking to establish himself as a replacement of God. So he was, there's a reason why he was building or leading the construction of a building that would reach the heavens. What would be the motivation for that? So you have one of the, immediately after the flood, you have one of the first major leaders who is in defiance of God. And from that major leader, you have the creation of a major pagan god, which, we talked about. A lot of the historians believe that many, if not most, of the pagan religions stem from Marduk, Zeus. What are some of the other leaders? Trying to think. Marvel's coming to. Trying to think of all the Marvel movies. Odin. Yeah. The Egyptians' sun god. I forgot his name.
Ra.
El or Ra. Yeah.
Or does it start with the O?
I don't remember.
Osiris was god of the dead. Egyptians.
Yeah.
So you can see all those pantheons have hierarchies in terms of power and who came first, and usually weather tends to be some of the ones that come first.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Zeus
So-
was also Lord of Lightning.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, Marduk took on many forms. He was the god of lightning and thunder, the god of sun, and also from that, we have the major god Ishtar, or Esther, right? Which was Nimrod's mother / mistress. Anybody remember her real name? Semiramis? Queen Semiramis.
But you also see that fusion, right?
Mhm.
Of, fertile land paired with rain and wind and kind of that creation
Yeah.
evolution. Like, woman is always kind of parallel to the life-giving pieces, whereas the masculine deities are more
So, Babylon represents the first really coming together of man after the flood, in defiance of God, the first real leader after the flood that would defy God. The cornerstone of many pagan religions. That same attitude that Nimrod represented carried on through many of the kings of Babylon, right? Nebuchadnezzar sought to build himself up as God. His grandson, Belshazzar, right, also followed the same path. Even, hundreds of years later with, as we went through the Maccabean revolt, Antiochus Epiphanes also sought to set himself up as God, and even established idol of Zeus in the temple, in the Lord's temple. So there's an element of that attitude that carries through as well. So Babylon could represent the attitude of pride, accreditation to great accomplishments. Look at what I have done. This great leader, what I have accomplished. Who needs God? Babylon represents idolatry and its great influence over man. If you remember, we read, just now in Jeremiah 51 how Bel or Marduk had, consumed many of the surrounding nations. And Babylon represents abomination, right? As the temple under Babylon, or the Medes, was defiled. It was defiled under Greece. So I think those are the key points. So what time is it? I'll conclude here, but so it's an actual city with people, with a acting government, an acting commerce system of trade, which we'll get into. But it's not I believe the scripture uses Babylon specifically because of the key points that we just mentioned, because it's the epicenter of idolatry. It's the attitude of leaders who are seeking to defy God and replace God. And it represents abomination. And I'll keep reminding us of that as we look at who, because it is an actual city. Obviously, there is a nation that is taking on these characteristics, and so we're going to look at who that nation could possibly be. And I'll hopefully show these characteristics through their workings. This nation that we're going to look at.
Could it be more than one? Could there be several iterations over time?
Different nations.
Sure. So if we're talking about like Babylon, less of a tangible city, more of like a culture, a lifestyle, like a whole way of existing. I mean, you can see it reflected through most Western nations.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to, or even Eastern ones too. It's just,
Yeah.
it just evolves over time.
Right. I think Revelation is speaking of a specific nation, though, because the way it describes her interaction with kings. It mentions her attire, which is scarlet, which often represents what? Royalty, yeah. Okay. That's all I had today. Any comments or questions? What's that? So many? Yeah, so we'll look at, who this nation may be, and we'll look at some of the popular ideas too, like, what popular Christendom has sought Babylon to be. There's a couple pretty big popular ideas out there. All right, that's it. Thank you. So where do we go from here?
I'm ready. Red one.
Take a break, or should we just go right in?
Yeah, maybe a 10-15 minute break.
Stephen Ellis's dad is gonna come pick him up at noon, so we're grounded here till
Okay.
12.
Wait till 12.
Your dad's gonna